Still talking that Zimbabwe, do you think the expulsion, of the vice president from the party, he was, fingered to succeed President Robert Mugabe in 2019. Do you think his expulsion will cause some unrests?
Well, if it appears that there is peace, it will be the calm before the storm. As I said before on your show, that in Kenya, if they have election, it will be so undemocratic and it will be such a fraudulent exercise. But there appears to be some level of peace now, but that peace will not last. The immediate impact will be unrest throughout the country, I am sure, because it is a clear sign of lack of respect for the democratic process. So eventually, it is a damage to the psychology of the people. It's an attack on democracy, and I think that it does not augur well for peace and tranquility in Zimbabwe.
Well, now that it's possible that President Mugabe's wife, Grace, may be, succeeding him by 2019, how do you think the people, will react to this prospect?
To tell you the truth, I am not sure how Mugabe himself got to be president for this long. I don't see how the inclusion, and I don't think I cannot see how the system can be open. One man can continue to win election after election. In the 80s, I believe he's gone into his 90s now, and certainly he cannot function as well as he could. But his wife now coming in is making the whole thing a sham. And now what you have is the Mugabe family running the whole country. And so it depends on the people. We shall see what happens. It's certainly undemocratic. But if Mugabe has been able to get away with election after election up to this time, maybe his wife will get away with it too. Now we will know that to speak volumes on the commitment of the people of Kenya, of Zimbabwe to democracy. That is what we need to wait and see.
Right, Dr. Pierce, thank you so much for your time on Network Africa. Let's move on. Cameroonian authorities have issued 15 international arrest warrants against leaders of an Anglophone separatist party. News sites report that the president of the Anglophone consortium, Sisiku Ayuk Tabe, is among those wanted. Mr. Tabe, who is making a speech in the U.S. state of Minnesota, now faces arrest and extradition. English speakers, who make up a fifth of the population, have long complained of discrimination in Cameroon. They say they are often excluded from top civil service jobs and that many government documents are published only in French, even though English is an official language. Protests began in October 2016 over the appointment of Francophone judges in the English-speaking region. The United Nations mission in South Sudan, UNMISS, is looking at ways of extending its presence in the northeast town of Akobo, South Sudan. This plan is to make it easier for humanitarian aid to reach displaced civilians, as well as boost security in the region. The 4-year war in the oil-rich South Sudan, a country only founded in 2011, has forced more than a third of its 12 million citizens to flee their homes, while tens of thousands have died in the conflict.
The United Nations peacekeeping mission is expected to reach vulnerable people in remote parts of South Sudan as it takes a more proactive approach. The head of the United Nations mission in South Sudan, David Shearer, says the agency was looking at ways of extending its presence in Akobo, a town near the border with Ethiopia. About 71,000 displaced people are currently living in Akobo and the surrounding area after fleeing fighting between the Sudan People's Liberation Army, SPLA, and opposition forces in the northeast.
It seems to me that a presence here would be a very useful thing for us to have. So we've been speaking with the county commissioner, with many of the other officials here, to see what sort of thing might be most appropriate. Logistically, getting a large force in here will take us months just because of the difficulty of getting things here. But we're looking at what options are available for us to be able to expand our presence, give some added value to what's going on here, but at the same time trying to keep our footprint.
The humanitarian needs of people in Akobo are numerous. Insecurity in the region and poor road conditions mean that aid agencies face logistic challenges and find it too expensive to support programs here. UNMISS is looking at ways of extending its presence in the town to support the humanitarian response and help create an environment conducive for delivery of aid. The United Nations mission in South Sudan once operated a base in Akobo, but it was closed down following an attack in December 2013 in which 2 Indian peacekeepers and 30 civilians were killed.
I think it will provide us as the NGO partners here greater security, and we will be able to expand our activities simply because we will feel that there is, someone to protect us. And I think this will make an impact on our programming. It could grow, and we could reach more beneficiaries.
United Nations peacekeepers in South Sudan are moving more aggressively to protect civilians caught in the country's 4-year civil war, after years of criticism of failures that led to the sacking of the mission's military chief last year. South Sudan won independence from Sudan in 2011, but plunged into civil war in 2013 after President Salva Kiir fired his deputy, Riek Machar.
An Egyptian bridegroom has suffered an unfortunate accident a day before tying the knot. At a party held on the eve of his wedding, gunshots fired to celebrate the event hit him in his leg, hand and genitals. Now, police told journalists that the injured bridegroom was taken to hospital while an investigation has been launched into the incident. A man identified as having fired the shots is reported to have fled, but was later caught and arrested by police. The incident has spurred online criticism of the tradition of firing guns in celebration, with some calling for it to be stopped. Coming up on Network Africa, a doctor from a country crushed by war, Yusufu Bangura, returns to Sierra Leone to give back to his country. That's in a moment.